Hi, I'm Rhett with testingtheory.com, and today we're going to talk about heat maps and how heat maps just may be hurting your testing program. Today I want to review with you the 4 simple steps you can take to get the most value out of your heat maps with your testing efforts. By knowing these steps, you'll be able to make better pages, design better tests, and get more value with your tests. Not too long ago, I got an email from one of my clients and they said, we want to get some heat maps on some pages because we want to redesign those pages. They wanted to use the heat map to inform what the new page should look like. At a fundamental level, this is a very flawed approach, and I want to talk about why. A single heat map by itself is correlative data, meaning you have where people are clicking and what they're doing, but you have not influenced that heat map or that page. All you have is just what people are doing. And most importantly, analyzing a heat map of a single page can actually hurt the redesign process. Suppose that there's an element on the page that people are really hovering over and they're really clicking. You might infer from that data that that element is important and needs to be in the new design. The problem is, again, that's correlative data. You actually haven't changed the page to see if that element is impactful or not. You just see what was being used in the past. For trying to optimize the page and find a new experience, this can be really detrimental. Suppose you have a really bad page, but there's one element that's better than all the rest. So it's a really bad page, and yet of the very bad, this one element is a little better. If you redesign it and keep some of the elements from the old page without testing, you are potentially using the old stuff that isn't good and putting it into your new design because that was the best of the old that was bad. If you're trying to redesign a page and you use the exact elements that were most used in the old page, that's not much of a redesign. You're basically just reskinning the same thing. The best way to see what elements work is to do testing on those elements themselves, do existence testing, do multivariate testing, find the element contribution to know if those elements matter. The heat map that shows you elements that are highly clicked or highly engaged with can be misleading in a correlative data sense when you're just looking at one single heat map, because you have nothing to compare it to. You don't know if that engagement is very good or very bad because there's nothing else that is that page with that same content. The other huge gotcha that you gotta be careful of when you're using heat maps is the fact that many companies only have click heat map data, meaning they only track the elements that were actually clicked. This can be a huge problem because if a heat map is only showing what's clicked, what if there are way more people who are not clicking or who are having a bad experience? My personal preference is to compare a heat map data with mouse movement and compare that to the clicked elements as well. The mouse movement shows you the elements that are not clicked, and if you're only looked at clicked elements, you're only seeing half of the story. The people that aren't clicking can help you learn just as much of what's wrong with your page as the people that are clicking can help you see what might be working with your page. The key though is to have this in the context of a test. A single heat map of mouse movement or a single heat map with clicks is only showing you the correlative data of that page. There's no comparison, there's no causation. So there are 4 simple steps to get the most value out of your heat maps. The first and most important point of using any heat maps is to always make sure that you're using heat maps as part of a test with causal data. So whenever you're looking at a heat map, if it's only just one heat map you're looking at, you may be in dangerous territory. The best way to use heat maps is to have a test and compare those 2 heat maps side by side. So that's step 1. Whenever you look at heat maps, make sure you have multiple variations as part of a test and compare the heat maps of those tests. Step number 2 is to look at the mouse movement to see if there's any gaps or failures in the pages themselves. And again, what you're looking for is the comparison of the 2. If you see a lot of heat in one area that isn't on the other page, that tells you a lot about those tested variations. And some of that heat may be on clicked elements, and some of it may be on elements that aren't clickable. Again, that helps you learn about the experience of those visitors. Step number 3 is to take those same comparisons and look at the clicked heat maps. What you want to look for is where are they clicking that's different, and where is the heat different between the clicked experiences on those 2 different pages. If you see certain elements that are clicked on one page but not on the other page, that helps you learn about the visitor experience. Again, it's the comparison that matters most. If you have a single page with heat, that doesn't really tell you, but if you have a single page where there are differences, that tells you a lot about the visitor experience. Step number 4 is to really compare the heat maps, both the mouse movement heat maps and the clicked heat maps, because that comparison, that causal comparison as part of a test is what helps you learn about the visitor experience. So step number 1, only look at heat maps when you've done it as part of a test. Step number 2 is to look at the mouse movement to see where the failures and gaps are. Step number 3 is to look at the click data, the click heat map data. And step number 4 is to make sure that all that you're looking at is in comparison to the other variations of the test. So my final thought for you today is remember that correlation is not causation. A correlative heat map tells you very little. A causal heat map that helps you see the differences in visitor behavior, that helps you isolate what elements might be having an impact, and lets you visually see the gaps and the failures because of the people that aren't clicking, that's so valuable. And so I would encourage everyone, put heat maps on all your tests. We have it set up in our company so that whenever we run a test, we automatically trigger our heat mapping tool to start recording visitor experiences, to start putting heat maps on those people so we can get that causal data with our testing. So we have the quantitative, was there a lift? Was there statistical significance? And we also have that visual heat map to see how the visitor experience was different. So should you be using heat maps? Of course. The best way you can use them is part of your test with causal data. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this video, give me the thumbs up. I also want to hear from you. If you're using a heat map tool, tell us what tool you're using, and tell me most importantly, does your tool allow you to do mouse movement without clicks? Put that in the comments below so we can all hear from you. Thanks for joining me, and good luck with your testing efforts, and I hope you have good testing and better conversions.